This story goes back several years. My boss was a classic type of personality, controlling, manipulative, and someone who loved to toy with people just for the thrill of it. He had a long history of infidelity, despite being married to another employee at our company. His latest hobby involved taking explicit photos of himself with other women and showing them off around the office like trophies. When he found out I was seeing someone from another branch, he took an immediate interest. It didn't matter that she was my girlfriend, he just saw her as another target. During a business trip to her office, he tried to get her to sleep with him. When she turned him down, he retaliated by spreading rumors about her, eventually getting her fired. I was furious, but I kept my cool and waited for the right opportunity. I knew he wouldn't keep his photos at home for fear his wife might stumble upon them, so I suspected he hid them in his office. My chance finally came one Saturday when I was working overtime. The cleaning lady unlocked his office to clean, and I slipped in, pretending to be measuring something. She asked me to close the door when I was done, then left. Once she was gone, I started searching through his desk, and sure enough, I found a thick stack of photos buried in a drawer, all of him with different women, his face clear as day. I took them all. When he was away on another business trip, I went to the post office closest to his house and anonymously mailed a dozen of the photos to his wife. The images were damning, 4 different women, none of whom resembled his blonde wife. The fallout was brutal. His wife divorced him, and her lawyer took him for everything. As for me, my girlfriend, who stood by me through it all, is now my wife, and we're living our best life, no grudges. Just a good story to tell. I feel inadequate because of my height. Hi, I'm a 24-year-old guy who severely struggles with being attractive to other women. I have never had a romantic relationship, never had anyone interested in me, and only have expressed my feelings a couple of times, and each time it was met with rejection. Every rejection I have ever gotten was in some way related with my height. I am 5'3", which is objectively short for a guy. Also, the fact that I am simply quagly doesn't really help my case. However, I do feel much worse about my height as opposed to the rest of my looks. So the fact that I have never had anyone interested in me, coupled with only experiencing rejection, and the fact that women height, I know that this is only true for women I interacted with. And I just might had bad luck, prefer taller men. Something I can't control nor change without invasive procedures has frankly made me feel like I am adequate and not good enough, and nothing I will make me become good enough, since I can't clear the bar for height to be considered attractive. What can I do to deprogram my way of thinking, since being short, ugly, bitter, and resentful is probably less likely to be attractive as opposed to just being short and ugly? Feel like the whole, be vulnerable. Things screwed me over big time. I've been in 4 serious relationships where I opened up and was vulnerable upon request, then that very vulnerability was used as an excuse to cheat. It's just messed up. Friends told me that if they're cheating on me for that, they are not the one, and I dodged a red flag. But after 4 people in a row. That's a pattern, surely. I don't understand why so many encourage to be vulnerable and open, then when I do that it's just used against me every single time. It's just messed up, man. Why does everyone I be with decide to cheat on me? They can be vulnerable as much as they want, and I'd love them unconditionally and show all the empathy and care that I can. But the moment I show even a sliver of vulnerability, I'm weak and undesirable and unlovable. Not even a shred of empathy which I had shown for them. Sigh, hate being a man. Edit, just to clear a misconception, as clarified in the comments, one of these 4 people was a man and bisexual. This post isn't trying to blame women in specific, just people in general. I got yelled at for hugging my dad. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, my family was gathered in the living room chatting. I walked in from upstairs and, feeling overwhelmed with love, hugged my dad in front of everyone. To my surprise, he immediately pushed me away and yelled at me in front of everyone. I felt so embarrassed and hurt that I walked away. I ended up hiding in the bathroom, where no one noticed me, and cried for about half an hour. That day changed everything for me. Not only did I stop showing affection like that to my parents, but I also stopped sharing my thoughts and feelings with them. It was a painful moment that left a lasting impact on our relationship. I kissed an old lady during a beach dare. I was with some college buddies at the beach over our break. We were having a good time with some drinks when a friend suggested truth or dare. So when my turn for a dare came around, my friend then points to a certain old lady. For context, the beach is about 15 minutes from our college. The climate also means it's beach weather almost all year round, so we're here pretty often. And this old lady is someone we regularly recognize. Specifically because despite being in her late 70s to early 80s, she always comes to the beach in a super risque bikini. So she tends to stand out. I'm told for my dare to go over and flirt with her. Apparently a couple of drinks and peer pressure hold power. So I reluctantly go over and get to complimenting. I'm expecting her to maybe just brush off my flirting and thank me for being sweet or maybe make a joke. This lady instead responds positive to it. So now I'm not really sure what to do, but my friends keep egging me on, so I keep going with it. She seemed curious if I was actually flirting, so she asked if I was put up to this. To which I responded with, no, like a dumbass. So to keep it short, she essentially tells me a longer version of, I'm not sure about the age gap, but how about a kiss? Now, I really should have refused then and there, but I don't know if it was the drinks or peer pressure, or maybe I just wanted to be nice and not let this woman down after giving her the impression I was legitimately flirting, but I went for it. Now I was expecting a small gesture like a peck, but this lady went ALAN. I ended up stuck making out with this lady on her beach towel for several minutes. Honestly, in hindsight, I can't believe I had the guts to actually lock lips ANTNTEs with this woman's liquid courage, am I right? Now, she didn't try to continue after that, she just thanked me and let me go. Thankfully, we'd already agreed not to mention anything that happened during that game, so Tyan Kagay nobody at my college found out. But now I feel kinda bad. The next time I went to the beach, she came up and asked if I'd like another kiss. I didn't take her up on the offer, but she said she'd be willing if I ever changed my mind. I don't know her situation, but I could tell she was really happy after that kiss. And I feel especially bad because I told her in the heat of the moment that I wasn't doing this for a dare, even though I was. A part of me wants to take her up on her offer and make her day whenever I visit the beach. It seemed to make her really happy, and it wasn't the worst kiss ever. Kissing an old lady for a bit every time I visit the beach wouldn't be the end of the world. Maybe I'd even get used to and enjoy it. Some friends have even told me to go for it. Not entirely sure what to do at the moment. One summer, I took on an R&D internship at a food company in Kokuk, Iowa, often dubbed the armpit of Iowa, if that gives you any idea. For housing, the company arranged for me to stay in a local college dorm that had previously served as a retirement home. The place was a little quirky, individual rooms and bathrooms, but with one large, shared kitchen. Since it was summer and the school had no summer program, only 2 other students had moved in early for fall. One was rarely around, but the other seemed to be there constantly, often bringing a small crowd of friends. We all kept our food in the communal kitchen, and you'd think it was obvious not to touch others' stuff. But almost immediately, I noticed some of my food disappearing: sodas, cereal boxes, sometimes emptied and put back on the shelf, you name it. I started by posting a polite, "Please don't take others' food," sign on the fridge. When that didn't help, I confronted the 2 other students, but the food kept vanishing, especially whenever I went out of town for the weekend. Frustrated, I vented to my manager, who offered the ultimate revenge plan. As part of my R&D work, I often ordered ingredient samples to test in new recipes. My manager slyly suggested I order some capsaicin extracts for my research. Even though our current projects had nothing to do with spicy flavors, I found a company willing to send me small bottles of 50k, 100k, and a whopping 250k skull capsaicin extracts. Wearing gloves and a mask, I carefully mixed a few drops of the 250k extract with water in a travel-sized spray bottle. Then I doctored some of the most frequently stolen items: cereal, chips, crackers, milk, and even the rims of my soda cans. For the snacks, I put the spiced items in a separate bag to dry, then mixed them back into the original packaging. I handled everything in an empty room down the hall, knowing how intense that spicy aroma can get in close quarters. Before heading out of town, I set the bait and left. When I returned, I could tell that my cereal, milk, chips, and 2 of the 3 cans of soda had mysteriously disappeared. No one ever mentioned anything to me, but my food stopped disappearing after that weekend. I like to think the experience was unforgettable for whoever helped themselves, and maybe, just maybe, they learned a fiery lesson about taking what's not theirs. On December 1, 2022, I lost my dad. He had been chronically ill for over 15 years, and as his health declined, he spent his final days with me. Watching his health deteriorate over the years was heartbreaking, especially as he had come to rely more and more on my mother. My mother, however, was far from the supportive partner he needed. She exploited his disabilities and declining mobility, constantly claiming they were separated or divorced while chatting with other men online. She often spoke about leaving him to marry someone else and, meanwhile, took advantage of him financially. We tried every possible legal route to get her out of the house or hold her accountable, but each attempt was brushed aside as a civil matter. Despite everything, my dad refused to leave the home he'd worked so hard to pay for. In time, he gave me power of attorney and added me to his accounts. These steps barely scratched the surface of the abuse he endured, but at least they gave me some control. The day after Thanksgiving, I brought my dad home on hospice, determined to make his last days as comfortable as possible. After his passing, I handled his funeral arrangements, only be told that my mother's consent was required for his cremation. True to form, she initially refused and only relented after I agreed to let her keep his survivor benefits, which would have been hers regardless. When it came time to write his obituary, I made the decision to leave her out entirely. There was no mention of a spouse or any hint that she had been a part of his life. I felt she didn't deserve to be seen as a grieving widow after the way she'd treated him. When people noticed her absence in the obituary, questions poured in from friends and family. My mother was furious, but for the first time, I spoke openly about the years of mistreatment my father and I had endured. The image she had carefully crafted for herself shattered as people learned the truth. Years of therapy have helped me process the maternal narcissistic abuse I grew up with, and I firmly believe that if she didn't want her actions exposed, she shouldn't have acted that way. Some may see me as the villain here, and perhaps I am. But given the chance, I would make the same choice again in a heartbeat.